The ideas and content expressed on this podcast are our own and do not reflect the views or opinions of any current or previous employers.
All right, welcome to the Construction Management Podcast. Again, Jason and I are sitting here
In our fancy studio.
Getting ready to impart some wisdom to the world, to the entire world. I think I've mentioned that before. We are international superstars. We do have downloads all over the world of the Construction Management Podcast, which is amazing. So if you are outside of this country or inside this country, please continue to download this podcast. It will make you healthier. I think that's pretty accurate.
It'll kill some time on the way to work.
I think it'll make you healthier. I think this could be considered medicine. Anyway, all right. So today we're talking about our trade partners, kind of how to manage them, how to treat them, and the importance to them, right? So, and this isn't just for your construction manager dealing with the trade partners on the job. This is also, throw this out there. If you're a tile company and you have subcontractors that work for you or partners that work for you, they're your trade partners as well. So everything that we talk about, when typically we have it's construction management, so we have one guy managing multiple trades, but it can go the other way as well, and it can be a specific trade managing contractors that are doing the work for them.
Yeah, we had a couple of our trade partner, guys come in and actually talk with us on that podcast a couple months ago. And one of the things that he said that I thought was super interesting is that, from our perspective as like a GC, you see subcontractors coming out from a known company that you've used for years, and you're like, what are they doing? Cutting corners? And the truth is, they can't keep a full-time staff on for our fluctuating amount of work without having subcontractors. So how they deal with them really decides our results on some level too.
Absolutely. 100% it does.
Yeah.
Because if they, that ultimately becomes our problem. If they're not doing
it does.
Well.
You can never say, if you're the guy building it, you can never say, it's not my fault. It's the guy that works for me. Like, it's your fault.
That's not acceptable. I would never accept that from a trade partner.
I wouldn't accept that as the customer.
No.
You know what I mean? No. I bought it from you, so I'm not going to hear about what your subcontractor did.
So we're talking about managing trade partners. So the first thing we got to do is talk about. So there are two, as I see it right now, there are kind of two types of managers walking around out there in the construction industry. There is the old school guy that used to yell and scream and kind of bully his way to completion on the projects.
Yeah.
Results. And it worked in years past. The trades. So
everybody acted like that. So it was no big deal. They were acting like that too.
So can I remember that? So I told you a joke a while ago. It's my favorite construction joke. I'm just going to tell it real quick. I think I probably already told it on this podcast. I don't know. But it's my favorite construction joke, so I'm going to tell it again. I'm going to edit it because the version I like is super filthy. So the little boy is driving his mom crazy. She's like, oh my God, this kid's terrible. Little Johnny. And she looks down out the window and she sees a house under construction. And she's like, hey, little Johnny, why don't you go down there and watch those guys build that house? That'll entertain you for a while. So little Johnny runs down the street. He's gone for like 3 hours. Finally, he comes home and he's all excited. And his mom says, hey, Johnny, did you have fun? And he's like, oh, I had a great time. She's like, oh, what did you learn? And he says, well, I learned, this blankety blank door doesn't fit. I'm going to have to take it down and cut a blank hair off of it and reset it. And it's
I know all the words. You just blanked out.
It's laden with profanity. And for years, that's been the perception of the construction industry.
Yeah. Instead, now it's just in our offices.
Yeah.
With the door closed.
I will never forget the day I was out on the job site and this guy, I was dealing with a utility guy. He's digging trenches and he's telling me why he can't complete the job. And I'm like, what the F? This is a bunch of bullshit and you're going to do it. And he looks at me and he goes, stop cursing at me. And I said, blankety blank, I'm not cursing at you. I'm cursing around you. And he said, if you use one more profanity, I'm leaving. And I was like, what? And I'm thinking to myself...
You're like, fine, go. No, wait, I'm just joking.
I'm just don't go anywhere. And I was like, what in the world? This is how we talk. This is probably 15 years ago or so. But I never forgot it because I was like, okay, I guess I can't talk to this guy like that. And I wasn't cursing at him. I was just cursing in general, which I tend to do. But I never forgot the conversation because here was a guy that was like, I expect better from you.
Yeah, even if I don't know you.
Even if I don't know you, I expect better. And if you're not going to treat me...
And you need me, so please don't swear toward me.
Yeah. So, and it was just something interesting I never forgot.
I've said that to people. What? Even though I don't
Don't swear at me?
Yeah, like, stop swearing at me or stop yelling at me or we're not going to have this conversation anymore. And that definitely goes over... I mean, it resonates when you say that to someone. It's like, puts it back into perspective. Like,
oh, not me, man. I'm like, yeah, buddy, let's fight. Let's get loud. Let's get crazy in here. Although I have said that, look, you need to you can change your tone or this is going to get ugly real fast.
Yeah.
So,
well,
anyway.
All right, so your two types of CMs in general, construction managers. I mean, you've got your old school and you've got your new school. I think that's where you're going.
That's where I was going with that. I was. So, these days, the construction industry as a whole is getting a lot more sophisticated than it used to be. Sure. And when you have a more sophisticated workforce, you need to take a more sophisticated approach to that workforce. So the days of just cussing people into submission are long gone. So it's better to be more organized. Right is right. And if you have a dispute or you need to motivate a subcontractor or a trade partner or whatever, it's best to do it in a very professional manner. It holds up better. It looks better on the construction manager or the manager in general, and you tend to get much better results.
Yeah,
definitely. So anyway, those are kind of the
old school and new school doesn't necessarily just have to mean like hard or not hard. Like you don't have to be an angry old school guy. I mean, old school is kind of like a broad term for like the way we used to do business, right? Sometimes we used to scream at guys to get things done, or you would be forceful with your schedule without wavering from it, without looking at all the different facts and stuff like that, and just insist on things and just because I said so type of deal. I would say like a new school approach would also have to do with being organized, using technology, getting the necessary information to them long in advance of when they need it.
For sure.
So that's kind of a broad thing, but definitely our industry is getting younger and more PC. And I know it's frustrating, but it is. Hey, look, it's a part of what we do. All of our stuff is customer oriented. Yep. Okay, we want the person who's purchasing whatever you're building to feel good about it when it's done, even if they're just turning around and selling it. They've got to feel good about it. So, coming hard with it all the time doesn't necessarily work across all of the different things that a CM does. Subcontractors or trade partners, customers, your own company, your own different departments maybe in your own company that help you get out ahead of those things. You can't act like that.
Let me tell you a story real quick. So years ago, this was probably in 2003 or 4, we had a guy fell down an elevator shaft. So we had a safety meeting the next day, and we were talking about more than just safety. We were talking about job site cleanliness, that sort of thing. So we get all these contracts. This actually was this one particular contractor. They had probably 30 guys on the job site. It was me and another guy. So the other guy, the community we were building was featured in a magazine. So he starts this meeting. He's got this magazine. And he's holding it up, and he says, "Hey guys, I just wanted to show you." So the idea he was thinking is he wanted them to take pride in the job and keep it clean and show them how famous the job was. And he holds up this magazine. And granted, I'd say 80% of them didn't even speak English, right? They were just there because their boss told them to. So he holds up this magazine. It's got a picture of the community on the front of it. And he says, you guys did this. You're building this job. You should be proud of what you're doing, and blah, blah, blah. And it was really fluffy, and it was really like, He was trying to be a cheerleader.
And then it was your turn to talk?
Yeah, that was my thing. He had good intentions, and I was getting so annoyed. I was like, what is he doing? He's wasting everybody's time. And finally, he's finished, and I was like, oh, can I go? And I let loose a barrage. Like, a guy had just fallen down an elevator shaft because of their carelessness. And I let loose with, you
Damien style.
Talk. You are done here. Blah, blah, blah. It was just two completely different styles. And honestly, I think the workforce that was there were left like just confused.
What just happened?
Like, what is this? Are they praising us? Are they yelling at us? It was so disjointed. I look back on that meeting and I'm like, oh my God, what? Because we went at them with such an ununified message,
right?
That I'm sure they were just. I mean, they knew me. Because I used to take their tools and throw them out second-story windows into alleys when I got mad at them, or bust holes in walls with hammers. Because I used to be an old school guy, and now I'm a combination of old school.
He's working on it, folks.
I'm working on anger issues. Anyway, so there's two different, places. There are two different ways to manage. You cannot manage through intimidation and cursing.
You just can't
anymore.
bully.
You just can't be a bully.
That's not the way it works.
It just doesn't. The workforce is too sophisticated. We just don't work like that.
So what do you think is probably one of the fastest ways to avoid an argument with a contractor on the job site?
Hold them to their contract.
Hold them to the contract. The contract is the most important thing.
It really is. So here's the thing. So when you have a subcontractor or trade partner come out onto the job site, you should always have a pre-construction meeting with them first. Whether you're building a house, a building, a train station, a bridge, whatever, you need to sit down and know that the people on the...
Of course you do. It's one of the main steps in integrated project delivery.
Right, I forgot. But you need to know... you need to understand what your purchasing department or whoever wrote that contract, you need to know the scope of work that's in it and what's included. And you need to know that the person in the field with you for that trade knows what's in the contract. So it's very important that you're both on the same page and you both understand fully what is expected of that trade. I can't tell you how many times I've seen arguments where guys are like, that's not in my contract, that's not in my contract. And the construction manager is saying, yes, it is. And the truth is, neither one of them knows because neither one of them ever read the contract.
All the time. Argue as if it's right in front of them. Right. And neither of them's even looked at it.
As if they both wrote it.
Right?
No, I know what's in it. I wrote it. So the best thing to do is sit down with the people that are doing the work in the field, truly understand the contract, and hold them accountable to it.
Sure.
That way you can avoid things like overages. So I will tell you, a lot of times what happens is trade partner comes out and says, that's not my contract. Construction manager says, okay, well, I'll give you an extra for it. They write the purchase order or however your company does it. The trade partner does it. Now they've been paid twice for the exact same work.
Yeah.
Or the work, and that's you never want to do that because then your accountants start looking at that and they're like, why are we over on this? Why are we over on this? And if it's caught and it doesn't just become like a construction repair where the construction manager made a mistake, it blows your budget. And when you're looking to buy other jobs or to start other projects, you take all those numbers and you're like, oh man, this job costs $100 when it should only have cost $60. We can't afford to do this next job because we blew all this money. Or worse, you go back to the trade and say, hey, we overpaid you. Now you need to give us that money back. Depending on the size of that company, that may not be something that they're able to do.
That can hurt a company for sure. Small companies.
I give you an example. We had this is years ago. There was a trade partner on a job, and he was overpaid to the tune of about $140,000. And did he know he was being overpaid? Absolutely. But it took us about a year to catch the discrepancy, and once we finally caught it,
sounds like you're managing things very closely.
You know what it was? We had gone to a software program that was both a scheduler and an accounting program. So as the construction managers were clicking off tasks, it paid them. Well, the only way to progress the schedule, and this is a sidebar, gentle listeners out there, but the only way to progress the schedule was to click off every task. Mm-hmm. So what the construction managers didn't realize was that they were clicking off tasks and it was actually sending checks to these contractors. Yeah. So they just thought, oh, it's just an extra task. I gotta click it. $140,000 later, we went back to that trade partner and said, hey, you were overpaid by $140,000. We want that money back, and we want it back right now. Well, he was like, I don't have it. He did have a brand new Corvette, though. Anyway.
He sounds great.
He was great. Long story short, we ended up going to court. Nobody won because both sides incurred legal fees.
Sure.
Nobody won. Shame on him. He knew he was being overcharged. But shame on us. We were just sending him money without realizing what we were doing.
And more importantly, all of those things, like you said, those charges that were there for legal costs and stuff, those are all charges that you didn't see coming also.
Yeah.
Just like the management time to go back and figure out if you were overpaid and then collect that money back, and all that time and money could have been spent doing other things, like looking forward.
Yeah.
And then the other part about this that you said is, is back charges. All right. A lot of times, if one contractor comes in and does something wrong, and then another one comes in with them and does something wrong, and then we have to come back and fix it. Well, we have to hold somebody accountable for what they did incorrectly, and we have to pay money out. And why should I have to pay for it? I'm not the one that made the mistake. And now you're having an argument with a trade partner about whose fault it was.
Yeah.
And that type of thing can be prevented by your planning up front. If you lay it all out and you get it, everybody's under the same, level of understanding, then you're less likely to have those things that you need to back charge for.
And so real quick, a back charge is just recouping money from a contractor due to damages or delays or whatever the issue may have been.
Usually it has to do with the fact that they're contracted for something, and then they either didn't do it and somebody else had to do it, so you have to pay them.
Yep.
Or they've done something wrong, and now you have to buy something else, and you have to take their money to do it, basically.
You got it.
That's the dumbed-down version.
Yep. All right, so how do we motivate these contractors, Jason? What do we do? How do we get them to come out, do a great job the first time, every time?
Well, I don't
Because
know.
if you can answer that question, buddy, I'm going to put it in a bottle and retire.
Yeah, I'd be a rich man if I could figure out how to... Look, my dad used to say that if everything worked out as planned, we wouldn't need you.
Yeah.
I was like,
thanks,
right.
Dad.
Thanks.
Dad.
Appreciate that. No, but I mean, I think for starters, you should be positive. Number one. Okay, it doesn't have to be a place you hate to go every day because working here is like pulling your teeth out. But I think that having things ready for them gives them the best opportunity to come in and do the best job in its full entirety. That way they're not coming back 3 times, which time is money. I mean,
I think we talked about that when we talked about time management. We
Sure.
talked about being prepared for the contractors when they show up. Because here's the thing. If you want a contractor to come out and be excited about going to work, be ready for them.
be ready.
And you will find that if you're ready, if you plan to be ready for them, when they come out, they can just do their work and they can leave. They will come to your job first.
Yeah.
Over everybody else's job, because if it's a crapshoot as to whether or not you're going to be ready, they're not coming out.
Yeah, I mean, and you're always going to have extenuating circumstances. So you can't say it's business as usual to have everything messed up. Like, I hear that from time to time. Like, oh, it's always been messed up, so it's like don't even look too close.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's always been like this. No, it's not. You can get out ahead. Every time I run into a problem, the first thing that pops into my mind is, how can I make this not my fault? Mm-hmm. That was a joke. And second of all...
sorry.
And the second thing is, how can we prevent this from happening again? Like, fool me once. But it's you can prevent those things from happening by just going back in time, figuring out what your issue was. That's the root cause of the issue, and then going back and fixing that right now. So that in the future you're not having these issues.
Yeah, for sure.
You find that there's overages that you have to pay for stuff because the contract wasn't done properly, and you just pay it, and then you answer your accountant, hey, here's the reason why, but you don't go back to that contract guy or your contract and fix it, and moving forward, if everything's fine now, then it's you that's the problem. It's not everybody else. Yeah. It's not the accounting or the contract or whatever. It's your fault now.
Yep. So I guess, just to kind of sum everything up, I guess the key to motivating contractors is through money, and that's be ready for them.
That's why we're all here.
Right? Make sure that they're doing a good job. So trust that they're going to do the job that you're paying them to do, but verify that the job was done properly, and to your satisfaction. That way you can avoid any kind of back charges and arguments about that sort of thing. Because if expectations are set the first time, when that contractor shows up, it's like a deal you've made with them, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to be ready for them to do the work, and they're going to do quality work for you.
That's right.
If both you and the trade partner can come to that understanding, man, that's going to be a great recipe for success right there.
Sure. A term that we used to use in the Army was check the checker. There's always somebody who's responsible at a higher level. And, if you're the CM on the job, you're probably one of the highest level people who's responsible for that work or that project or that product. And if you only rely on the guy who's supposed to go check his work and he gives you the thumbs up and you pay him, you're going to find that you're going to have those overages and disappointments and back charges. That's going to be a higher ratio of problems if you don't check that checker. You have to go back yourself and look at it. You should be in your homes or your project every single day. If possible. Yep. And the more time that you put between checks, the larger amount of issues that are going to be defined.
Well, not only that, if you're checking the work, if you're making sure that the work is done properly, consistently, the work will be done properly, consistently, because the trades are going to know that you're coming behind them to look.
Sure.
And that's super important. So treat your trades with respect. They'll treat you with respect. Be ready for them. They'll do quality work for you. Trust but verify, or check the checker. I think those are the three most important things when managing trade contractors. The treat them with respect thing, I'd say it's number one on my list.
Definitely.
People.
Your brother always says if you're talking to a guy for a half an hour, 20 minutes of it ought to be, how's your wife? How's your family?
Yeah.
Because we're all people here. And it's not just about the work, man. You got to want to come in every day. We're going to spend more time here than we do with our families on some level.
Yep. You gotta enjoy going to work every day. That's for sure. Maybe not every day. Sometimes I go old school.
I'm like 2 here, 3 there. You choose which one you want it.
Either way, it's a super rewarding career. And I think that's basically...
and you could be fired at any moment and working for one of your trade partners.
Oh, yeah, you could. And it's funny you say that because it goes both ways, right? Because a lot of those trade partners decide they want to get in and manage the whole picture, which I personally love, especially when they stand there and their eyes are as wide as a saucer, and they're like, oh my God.
You're like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, buddy.
Trying to tell you.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden just managing that one trade maybe seems a little easier than managing all of them. Yeah. And the boss and the client. Ugh. Anyway, so that enough about that. Anyway, that's it. That's all we got today. Please subscribe to the podcast. Send us questions or comments. You can write us on iTunes or whatever Android. I don't even know what it is. Apple owns everything, so I'm not sure.
That's not true at all.
I think they probably own Android also.
No,
anyway,
not even close.
Give us some good ratings. Send us your comments at info@constructionmanagementpodcast.com. We love getting them. And until next time, we'll see you guys. Thanks.
See ya.